If you've ever been hit with one of these, you know that licensing music for YouTube can be a pain, but it doesn't have to be that way. In this video, I'll teach you what music licensing is, how it works on YouTube specifically, and how you could prevent copyright claims that could get your videos taken down. Plus, we'll talk to Storyblocks copyright and licensing expert to help add color and context to how music licensing works on YouTube. So what is music licensing? When it comes to music, licensing is what defines the relationship between the artist and the distributor. Copyright defines the ownership of any given piece of content. If you're a content creator, in most cases, you'll need a license to legally use an artist's music in your videos.
My name is Olivia Lloyd, and I manage rights and clearances at Storyblocks. So a lot of people think that just crediting an artist is sufficient to secure a license to use music, and that's just not true. You really need to get an actual license and written permission from the creator and from the content owner, which again can be multiple people. It can be just an artist or an artist and a label or an artist label distributor. So it's important to understand where your music's coming from.
If you're wondering how you get a music license for YouTube videos, there's two options that you can choose from. The first is to find out who holds the rights to the music that you want to use, which will either be the artist themselves, their label, distributor, or a combination of all three of these entities. From there, you'll need to contact the rights holder and ask to use the music in your video.
I think that the most difficult part about trying to get direct permission from a distributor or label is figuring out who to even contact. It's important to understand that music comes with two inherent copyrights. There's the sound recording, the specific recording that you're listening to, but also the music and lyrics, the composition. And those things can be owned by different people and require permission from both in order to use a song in any context. So it's really important to figure out who those people are and contact them accordingly.
You may have to negotiate terms, but the goal is to get written permissions to use the asset in as many ways as possible, so you won't have to come back later for more permissions.
At Storyblocks, we already know and we've already secured permission from those places, but if you're just searching on the internet, you're going to have to do a lot of Googling and research to figure out who owns the sound recording and who owns the composition.
The second option is to use licensing agencies. This is the simpler way to get permission to use music. Platforms like Storyblocks, Licked, and Premium Beat are licensing agencies that streamline this licensing process. Here at Storyblocks, all of our music comes with a master use and sync license. A sync license gives the license holder permission to use the music in combination with video. A master license covers the use of that specific recording of the song. Storyblocks license is also royalty-free, which means that you can use any music from our library without having to pay royalties to the artist. When you sign up for the platform, your subscription fee goes towards paying the artists who license their music with us. Outside of royalty-free music libraries, there's a few alternatives for finding music that you can use for a YouTube channel. The first being Creative Commons music. This is music available for free under certain conditions. It typically requires proper attribution and compliance with a specific license type. The second way is to commission original music. By reaching out to an artist and commissioning a song, you can easily customize it and make your video stand out. What better way to support an artist than by paying them to make a unique song that's tailored specifically to your video or content? The third option is to use public domain music. This is music that isn't protected by copyright and is available for anyone to use, like most of Mozart or Chopin's work. But be 100% sure that it's public domain before using it to avoid any copyright strikes or legal issues. And because music comes with two inherent copyrights, the composition and the sound recording itself, you have to be certain that both the recording and the composition are cleared under public domain. When it comes to licensing costs, what you'll pay usually depends on how popular the music is, the use case, like commercial versus non-commercial, and the platform that you're going to be using it on. While in this video, we're talking about licensing music specifically for YouTube, things like sync and master licenses will also apply to other social media platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok. So how does music licensing work on YouTube specifically? One important thing to understand when it comes to licensing is the difference between royalty-free and copyright-free, because these are not the same thing. Royalty-free music is usually still copyrighted and requires proper licensing to avoid getting hit with claims. This music exempts you from paying the royalty for syncing your music with a video. However, the music may still require a public performance license, depending on how the music is going to be used.
Basically, royalty-free music means that you've paid a one-time fee, and for that one-time fee, you can use the music without having to pay additional fees.
Public performances of music usually require this separate license, which you'll need to get from the performing rights organization that owns it. Many platforms such as YouTube and businesses like hotels or restaurants have blanket licenses with PROs, which cover usage on their site.
And at Storyblocks, we have an entire catalog of PRO-free music, which allows you to use royalty-free music without having to worry about when and if you need a public performance royalty.
If you'd like to learn more about PROs and public performance licenses, you can check out the article, which is linked in the description down below. But if you want to be sure the music you're using doesn't require a separate license from a performing rights organization, Storyblocks has our own label where the music is 100% PRO-free and royalty-free. In order to identify copyrighted works, YouTube uses an automated content ID system that scans uploaded videos against a database of copyrighted content. It works like a fingerprint database, where rights holders upload their assets and the system is able to scan videos to be able to match any music used in their database. If the system finds unauthorized music, it gets flagged, which usually then leads to claims. That's why it's so important to use properly licensed music. Getting a claim or using copyrighted music without permission can lead to things like monetization claims, which redirect revenue from you to the copyright owner. Muting or removal, where your video gets muted or taken down entirely, and channel strikes, which can add up and lead to your entire account being terminated. In short, using copyrighted music without permission is not worth the risk. To avoid running into copyright issues, here are 4 best practices that you can follow. The first is to use platforms like Storyblocks or Creative Commons music to ensure proper licensing. The second best practice is to use tools like Hawk, which lets creators allow list their channels and could help prevent copyright claims for properly licensed content. If you use Storyblocks, make sure that you add your channel IDs into the account so we can clear content claims for you faster. After you've ensured that your content is cleared, use this third best practice, which is to upload your drafts as unlisted videos. This will help flag any potential claims before you hit publish. And the fourth best practice is to stay familiar with YouTube's copyright policies and content ID terms to understand how disputes are handled. That way, you'll know exactly what to expect if something like this happens to you. If you'd like to dive in more here, we've linked directly to YouTube's support page in the description down below. If your video does get hit with a copyright dispute, here's what you need to know and do. First, figure out the exact song that's been flagged by YouTube's system. Once you know the song, research who the rights holder for the song is and check the licensing details of where you got the music from. While the claim is being investigated, any monetization funds you get from the video will be held by YouTube in escrow. Your goal is to prove that you have permission to use that song. Gather any relevant documentation that you can find, including things like rights certificates, invoices or proof of purchase, attribution for Creative Commons, public domain evidence, and exceptions for educational or press use. Next, each party will have to present evidence of ownership. You'll submit all the documentation you've compiled to YouTube for their review. Some platforms like Storyblocks allow pre-clearance of your channel using Hawk, which helps speed up and resolve the claims process faster, like we discussed earlier. Finally, you'll have to wait for YouTube to finish the review or escalate the dispute to the copyright holder or licensing platform, if necessary. Whoever wins the claim gets the funds that are being held by YouTube in escrow. However, if one party drops the claim, the other automatically gets these royalties. If all of that sounds like a pain, we agree. That's why we do our best to simplify music licensing for YouTube with features like easy asset identification, where your entire download history is cataloged on your account, with song IDs linked to every download. Clear rights ownership, where Storyblocks owns the general rights to our entire library. Licensing certificates, which provide detailed artist and song rights information, and proof of purchase information, such as invoices and licensing documentation that are readily available in your account in case of any claims. Our YouTube channel protection also works directly with our publisher network to auto-resolve disputes as fast as possible. When claims do happen, which they do, we work hard to expedite resolutions and minimize disruptions to channels, videos, and your posting calendar. As the cherry on top here, our amazing customer service team helps make all of this possible, assisting with communication between creators, publishers, and YouTube.
As an artist myself, it's really important to me that we make sure that artists and musicians are not left behind as we move into a digital-first environment. Unfortunately, the way the music industry works, they've made it really hard for artists to get paid for their work. And they've made it hard to connect artists with creators who want to use that work. And we make sure that our artists are paid fairly for the work that they create, while also making it really easy for our customers to just upload music and go. So I think it's a really rare best of both worlds scenario over at Storyblocks.
Licensing music for YouTube is simple when you have the right resources and a clear process to follow. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Then head over to storyblocks.com to explore our library of royalty-free music created by award-winning artists, 4K and HD footage, sound effects, templates, and more.